Listen, guys, whether you choose the red pill or the blue pill, whether you choose to remain asleep or open your eyes is up to you. All I'm offering is the truth about the real globalist agenda, the real New World Order scam that's meant to control you. We started talking and catching a lot of flack for the false border agenda, the idea that human beings need papers to travel, that they need documents, the idea that our country was founded in the USA on a principle of people have to be molested to cross our border to come and visit. We all know that the cowboy in 1860 didn't ask permission to cross the border, and it didn't matter whether he was from Mexico or from Canada or from the USA. That's not what liberty was, and everyone knew it. Now, I've proven in the Constitution, in the historical context, in the words of our founding fathers, that the idea of a person being illegal, of an illegal immigrant, the idea of a massive institution that locks people in prison, that gives them exorbitant fines, that steals their property and their stuff and ships them back out of the country for profit, for the for-profit prisons, and for an agenda of fear and terror. I've proven that that never existed when this nation was founded. In fact, the idea of an illegal immigrant is so utterly absurd. It's repugnant to the ideals of liberty. You become illegal, you become a criminal by committing a crime and there being a victim for that crime, not by exercising your right to beneficial use of open lands, not by walking across a border with your cow. These are not criminal acts of human beings. Crimes are things you commit against other human beings that harm them. And only after due process can you be punished for those crimes. But we live in a world where the NWO has convinced so-called patriots to say patriotism is molesting and punishing people who have never been given a jury trial. And here's what's really happening. I've been monitoring this and watching it for months, but being out of the country for a while has really helped me to see it from sort of an outside perspective and really see how big it really is. And so while people point fingers at me and say, Gavin, you're a pawn for Soros and for the global elite, what they're really doing is the same thing as our police do. They accuse us of exactly what they are doing. They accuse us of the crimes that they commit or promote or defend. So what is the real agenda? The real agenda is the borders. And so while the elite politicians and the corrupt fascists and power people use one narrative on this side to make one faction say, yeah, they're the good guys or they're the bad guys, they use the opposite narrative on the other side, but it's the same people. It's the same politicians. Haven't you noticed that whether someone is supporting Bernie or Ted Cruz, those same people, they get in there, maybe Trey Gowdy, or they make their speeches and people say, look, they're finally doing something, but they're not actually doing anything. They never actually show up to defend freedom. They just make speeches to keep their factions whipped into a fury and fighting against each other. Haven't you noticed that the police in the USA kill 1,200 a year? A person every 7 hours? Our mothers, our children, our brothers, our fathers executed on the side of the road? That they put tens and tens and tens of thousands in hospitals for fake crimes, that they fill for-profit prisons? And who drives this? Their cronies in the judiciary, in the politicians. And we say, well, we have to have law and order, but the ones that are defying and trampling law and order are the very global elite that say they're protecting us. But there's a bigger picture, and that's what I'm going to close with today. That's the pill, the truth, or the asleep propaganda that you have to choose. See, the truth is, the global agenda is to lock down the borders. There's already a natural division between different cultures and languages. It's just the way human nature is. And they found that using the Sun Tzu tactic of divide and conquer, they can take it even further than just faction. They can divide us into districts. That's right, you're in a district. See, they've taken the border and they've locked it down and they've made us fear the brown person or the white person or the other person or the person that speaks a different language on the other side of the line. Now, it's okay to have sovereignty in your nation. It's okay to have a border. Our founding fathers in the USA were absolutely for anyone being able to cross the border and immigrate. There was no restriction whatsoever. on immigration, as our founding fathers wrote the U.S. Constitution. But it didn't mean that they didn't protect the border, that we didn't look out for our communities, that we didn't monitor to make sure we were invaded. But what they've done is in recent times, they've built a propaganda machine based on the idea that a human being can be illegal for walking across a line, but not hurting anyone. The idea that human beings must be documented, and now they're even doing it to you, is you're required to have passports to travel from one place to another and to constantly show ID and to show your papers. And then in your district, you have your factions. So your countries are your districts, and they divide those steeper and steeper and darker divisions between us by making us fear and hate one another and dividing us far apart with their walls, either figuratively or literally. And then within our districts, we're now slaves within our districts, afraid to leave because the people in the other district are terrible and it's war-torn and they'll rob and beat us. But really the ones robbing and beating us is our own government, our own enforcers, the very people who say they're protecting us from the people in the other districts. Are you opening your eyes? Are you seeing the bigger picture? Or are you just going back to sleep? You're in a district, and the borders are the result of billions in propaganda from your global elite masters. When real law says all men are created equal, love your neighbor as yourself, defend the rule of law, and oppose the tyrant, fascist elite who say that human beings should be herded into pens and districts and factions like so many cattle. Peace.